Hey everybody, and welcome to the 10th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. A big thanks to all of you who listened to last month's episode with Coach Larry Blackstone. I appreciate the feedback and appreciate the support. This month I was able to talk with an old friend of mine who I haven't seen or spoken to in many years. We grew up together. He was a couple years younger than myself, but our parents worked together at the Goodyear plant in Jackson, and so I spent some time with this guy at some of the Goodyear parties growing up and in sports and things like that. But super good guy. He's made a nice name for himself in the music scene around Jackson County and that area, and I recommend giving him a listen if you don't know much about him. If you haven't been out to see him, which I'm guilty, I haven't made it out to see this cat yet, but when I get home for sure I'm going to go check him out. But Charlie Manring's on the show today. It was fun to take about an hour and a half or so to have a conversation with Charlie and just kind of see where life's led him. Again, I haven't seen him for many years, but I knew that Charlie, after talking to his cousin Bird Manring and even before then, I knew I wanted to have Charlie on the show. I've kept in touch with Charlie as far as Facebook goes over the last few years. We'll text back and forth here and there occasionally, but as far as just seeing him and talking to him and getting to know Charlie, a lot's changed since we graduated, since we went to school together, and it was cool to sit down and talk to him and see where life's taking him. But I recommend it, guys. Give this guy a shot. If you've never heard him sing, he actually sings a song on the show today. You get a good sense of just how good this guy is. So here's my episode with Charlie Manring.
Hello?
Charlie.
Hey.
What's up, buddy?
How we doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good, man. Good to talk to you finally. Been wanting to do this for a while. I was like, man, it's a good time. Had an off day today. I was like, it'd be a good day to get with old Charlie here. How's things at home?
Everything's going really good. I just got home from work here a little bit ago and live about the same thing every day, I guess.
That small town life, huh?
Small town life.
No kidding, man. What is it that you do for work now?
I work at Kenworth Truck Company.
Okay.
In Chillicothe. We assemble the trucks from top to bottom.
Wow, very nice, man. I know I have a few buddies who work over that way, and working in Chillicothe, we got a lot of the employees that would, unfortunately have to come in for different things at different times. So I've heard some stories. I don't know if you know Jeremy Clemens or not. Jeremy, he worked last.
I work with him every day.
Do you really?
Yeah.
How funny is that? Well, you have to tell him Brent said hi, man. I haven't talked to Jeremy for probably 10 years, but he was a really good buddy when we were playing softball and baseball together.
Yeah, he's in my department. I work with him every day.
How cool is that? Small world, huh?
Yes, it is.
No kidding, man. Well, before I called you here, I was talking to Mom and Dad on the phone. They wanted me to make sure to tell you that they said hello, tell your brother hello, tell the family hello for him.
All right.
All
Tell them the same.
Sure.
I seen your dad here a while back at McDonald's in Wellston. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I got a chance to talk to him for a few minutes.
Good deal, man. Yeah, he's less seen now that he's retired. I think he was more out on the town when he was working because, he would go in every night and stop at Speedway there every day and get him a paper and a tea to take to work. And now that he's retired, he's kind of even busier, I guess, throughout the day. So he's hardly ever out much.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. My dad stays on the run all the time now that he's retired. So
I saw your dad. I think when I was home back in April or May, we had a little garage sale, yard sale type deal up at my uncle Gary's house, and your dad came by, and I remember them immediately started talking about guns. Hey, I got some guns. You wanna look at my guns? You wanna buy some guns?
Yeah, we're all die-hard. I followed in Dad's footsteps with me and my wife enjoy going to like the flea markets and stuff, and we buy and sell stuff now too. So
very cool, man. That's a fun thing to do. I like going to old antique malls, and I'm a big sports and movie and music guy. So just kind of going and finding random, maybe an old album or an old movie that's out of print that you can't find anymore, some old piece of sports memorabilia that you can't find. Those things are fun to go to.
Oh, they are. It's a lot of fun.
I think the internet though is kind of hurt as far as everybody. You can't find a deal anymore because everybody knows what it's worth or what somebody on eBay will pay for it, so that all the prices are all jacked up. But But every now and then you can find a little hole in the wall one that has some pretty good deals.
Yeah, every now and then.
Right, man. Well, hey, dude, I talked to Bird here about 2 months ago, and we I didn't know Bird very well. That was the first time I'd really talked to him. But it was fun. It was fun kind of getting to know him a little bit and hearing a little bit of his story and how obviously his story and your story kind of intertwine a little bit, obviously being related, but just the fact of how he kind of said, seeing you pick up the guitar, he kind of, that's what got him into picking up the guitar. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a chance to listen to that. That was a really, really good. Bird, every time he gets a chance, he gives me more credit than I deserve for anything. But he's a really, really good guy, and he's got a really high opinion of me as a musician and stuff. And he gives me a ton of credit every time he gets a chance to. So, and I appreciate that.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. I remember going back even, I think you graduated a year or two under me. Is that right? 2001, 2002?
Yeah, I was in 02.
Okay. I even back then I remember, just hearing, oh, yeah, Charlie's playing here. There's a little party and Charlie's playing. I remember you picking up the guitar and going out there a little bit. But I don't think I ever actually was able to hear you play, except, on the videos that I've seen, YouTube, Facebook, and things like that. But kind of hopping into it, man. What drew you to that? Is that something from early on that you knew, hey, this is something I would like to do, or did it just one day kind of, there's a guitar, let me see if I can play that, and kind of teach yourself? How did that come about?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It was 4-H camp.
Yeah.
That was going out to Cantor's Cave at the Jackson County 4-H camp. We had people there from Gallia County and Jackson County, Meigs, Fenton, Waverly, Piketon area. And I started going to those camps, I believe, when I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. And my brother went with me like the first few years, and then he kind of lost interest in it. But it was like the greatest part of my summer. So I went every single year. And there was a samples boy from Jackson, and he was one of the older people, staff members, and all of us younger guys looked up to them. And he had a guitar out there, and he would play music. And I remember having a guitar at the house that belonged to my grandpa, and it sat in the closet. And I went home after 1 year at camp, and I told my dad, I said, is there any way we can take that down to Hummingbird Music, get a set of strings put on it? I want to learn how to play it. And I'm one of the fortunate ones, man. I picked it up, and I watched a couple people a couple times, and I was able to take off with it.
That's awesome.
And I don't take that for granted, because I've watched a lot of people who wanted to play, and they've tried and they've struggled with it, and I was able to pick it up, and it was like a natural thing to me. A lot of my dad's family has that music. His dad played music, and I've got several cousins that play music. And it's the biggest blessing I've ever been able to imagine. I mean, I've had a lot of fun times in my life playing guitar and singing.
Dude, that's so cool. That's always, I mean, I think everybody goes through a phase where they want to be, oh man, I want to be, I want to play basketball, I want to play baseball, I want to play music, I want to be able to be in a play and act, I want to be able to do this. But very few people are able to, they go try it and they realize, well, maybe that's not for me. But to be able to pick that up and just run with it. I've always had that thought, like, man, I would like to sit down and learn how to play guitar. But with me, I have zero patience. And if I can't pick something up right away, then I pretty much am done with it, unfortunately. Because there's many things I would like to try to do. But if it doesn't come natural, or if I don't pick it up, man, I'm like, I can't do it. Heck, even when Guitar Hero and Rock Band and those things came out, I tried to play those, and man, I was so bad. I'm like, how's my pinky and my middle finger supposed to work together? Like, I can't get those fingers to move at the same time. So for me, I was not good. But it amazes me, dude. Music's such a special thing, and I have a huge appreciation for pretty much every genre. To me, it's all art. Some is crappy art. I'm not a big hip hop guy. Rap, that kind of stuff is not my thing anymore. But I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the music, especially if you're somebody who can get up there and not just sing, but you can play, 1, 2, 3, 4 instruments, or I remember hearing like Kid Rock played like 14 different instruments or something crazy. I'm like, man, that just doesn't make sense to me. How you can be that inclined and be able to learn something like that so well and just be kind of natural at it. Yeah, that it just blows my mind when I see a Joe Bonamassa or somebody like that who's just like, oh my God. I don't know if you've ever seen Bonamassa or watched Bonamassa's videos, but holy crap, man! If you have,
I've got a chance to see a lot of his stuff on YouTube.
oh my gosh, I mean, I think the first thing I saw of him, a buddy told me about him. I checked him out, and then I was going, like you said, through YouTube, and I saw him open for like BB King back when he was like 12 years old. If you haven't seen that video, check that out, man. It's like this guy's a prodigy. You could tell right away that at 12 years old, this guy's he's somebody special.
I'll tell you, on the other side of that spectrum, though, people have wanted me to teach them. And that, to me, that is the most miserable thing in the world. I've tried so hard. I remember years ago, I had a dad of a young boy. He came up to me, and he asked me if I would give his son guitar lessons. And I think I made it through 4 lessons. And I told his dad, I said, man, I'm just not cut out for this whole teaching thing. And my buddies joke with me all the time because one of my good friends, he's a lefty. So I give him a right-handed guitar and switch the strings around on it. And they joke with me every time they're with me that don't let Charlie try and teach you. He can't handle it. I don't have patience for it.
Well, like they say, man, those who can do and those who can't teach, right? So yeah. I think it takes a special person to be able to get out there and have that patience. Same thing coming back to, like I said, I would love to be able to play, but I just don't have the patience. I don't have that. Like, there's no way. If I can't sit down, I can't, I can't be Chuck Berry in a month. I'm done. So what? Let's go back a little bit. Where did you start first playing? I remember, like I said, in high school seeing you pick up a guitar here and there, but I don't think I ever actually heard you play. When did you really start getting into playing shows? Where was your first show? Just give me a little bit about that.
So the big start I had playing like the local bars and stuff, a lot of that started in Waverly. When I was younger, I started running around with a crowd from Pike County and Waverly area, and they had an open mic every Wednesday night, which the Emmett House, it's burned down now, it's gone. But the Emmett House was a big bar restaurant, and then they had this little pub on the back side, and it had a separate entry into it, and it would probably only seat, if you were lucky, 35, 40 people. And on Wednesday nights, we started doing this open mic night there. There was like 3 or 4 of us. Next thing we knew, it got huge. I mean, there was 70, 80 people coming to this open mic on Wednesday nights. And wow. We just went with it. So from that point, I started just playing whoever, people would call me. Like I got booked a couple times at like a couple of the local, just local little bars and stuff here around Wellston and Jackson area. And then like Bird talked with you about it. Me and him ended up getting kind of tangled with each other. And he brought it up that, what if he would book me? And man, next thing I know, I was playing music every single weekend, sometimes like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And there was even a couple Sunday afternoon shows at like a Dakota or something like that.
Wow.
And my first show that I actually played by myself was probably at the Canal Pub at the Emmett House. And that was always on like a Friday night. And at that time I was working as a delivery driver for Carter Lumber, which was right here by my house. Mm-hmm. And I did that through the week. And then on the weekends, I started playing music all the time. And it just got to where it became like all the time. And then once the job I got a job at the Nelson Tree Service, and those were 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. But there was always a time of the year where they would have money left over and they had to spend it. So we would start working Monday through Saturday. And it just got to the point where I was canceling shows. There was a lot of other stuff going on at the time. And unfortunately, I got out of it for, probably about 7 years or so.
Oh, wow.
I ended up getting a job at Kenworth, and that was a second shift deal. So every Friday night I was at work, and then by the time Saturday got here, I didn't want to be scheduled to go play music. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do.
Sure.
And at that point, I couldn't do it anymore. And I was on second shift for, the better part of 7 years, and finally went to days and went on Facebook and made a couple posts. And I've slowly kind of got back into playing some shows. It's a little harder now. I got kids, two girls here.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want every single weekend to be me playing music.
Sure.
We want to be able to schedule some other stuff that we can go do. But there was just years ago, Bird, he kind of talked to you about it a little bit. But, years ago, I had a lot of crazy stuff going on in my head and everything else in my life that was going on. And I ended up talking to Bird about we're good friends and we're family. We need to stop doing this, because I was, he was taking forever to get a show booked, and he would finally get it, and then I would cancel on him.
Right.
And I knew it was making him aggravated, and I knew it was going to end up in an argument. And last thing I wanted was that to happen, because me and Bird to this day are still very close. We're close friends and we're family. And I just got out of it for quite a while. And now I'm slowly starting to get back into the music scene again. And it's a lot different now than it used to be.
I bet. That's a long time, man. Things change, even if you're out for, I'm sure if you're out a year or two, but being out, pretty close to a decade.
And my biggest problem is, my genre of music never really changed. It changed. I've got so many different types of music that I listen to. It's crazy. I mean, I'll be driving home from work, and like my 6 channels on my Sirius radio, it starts out with Bluegrass Junction, and then it goes to pop rocks, and then it goes to turbo rock, which is like Slipknot and System of a Down, and then it goes into Y2K, 2000s and 90s country.
Very nice. That's how go ahead.
I just never know what I'm gonna be listening to.
Sure, man. That's how I am with it. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan. Billy Joel is my favorite artist of all time, and I've told that on the podcast before. So I listen to him quite often. But man, I might be driving home from work one day and be like, man, I want to hear some Matchbox 20, just because that was my high school. That was their debut album came out when I was in high school, and it was it was a huge success, and that's what we listened to. And well, then it goes from Matchbox 20 to Third Eye Blind to the Spin Doctors to like all the stuff I grew up with. And then you're like,
oh yeah, that's all good,
right? Then you're like, I'm sick of that. Then you throw on some Frank Sinatra. I'm like, I'm listening to Sinatra for a while, and then like I love everything, man. Like I said, it's kind of it's all art. Again, some of it I think is just kind of people push the bounds, and there's a lot of trash out there when you get into that. Not to crap on hip hop again, but a lot of that stuff, you listen to it and you just like, I could do that. Like, I think I could do that. Maybe not as fast as they can do it, but I think I could do that,
I'm not crazy about any of that stuff.
Yeah. I went through a phase where Tupac and Bone Thugs and Biggie and Snoop and stuff like that. Again, though, that was when we were growing up. That was in, the early to late 90s. But since then, I've kind of gotten away from a lot of that stuff. But it makes you appreciate the stuff like you were talking about, the 90s country. To me, that's still country. Late 80s, early 90s is still that country, that Tracy Lawrence, that Sammy Kershaw, that kind of stuff. To me, whatever they play today, and they try to pass on as country music. Like, man, Florida Georgia Line, Luke Bryan, okay, those guys, I'm not taking anything away from them. That's good music in its own right. That's cool. That's whatever. It's not country. Like, don't put that on my country station and tell me that's country music.
Yeah, it's changed a bunch, hasn't it?
It really has. It's good to see guys like Luke Bryan and Eric Church come back, though, and now you got Tyler Childers, and you got all these Sturgill Simpson and Jamie Johnson, guys who are really These guys are country music. But again, you hear them less and less on regular country radio. One guy who's kind of surpassed that, and I'm not sure why he's kind of taken the lead, but Chris Stapleton. He kind of came out.
Yeah.
He kind of came out of nowhere, and they really push him. And I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's okay, but I think Jamie Johnson could sing like circles around him. You know what I mean? I think Jamie's voice is just so smooth and so just that kind of gruffness, that pure country music takes you back to like Alabama and guys like that. But for some reason, Stapleton, they kind of been on him and have pushed him the last few years. What's your thoughts on him? Do you think he's a...
I listened to him for years before anybody even knew who he was.
Yeah?
He was the lead singer of the Steel Drivers.
Okay.
Which is one of the best bluegrass bands of my time. And he put out several albums with the Steel Drivers. And he eventually, the band 100% supported him. So he wrote a song for Luke Bryan to sing. And Luke Bryan sang it. And after that, they found out who Chris Stapleton was. You know, he's one hell of a songwriter. Mm-hmm. And they started, all of a sudden, you know, they started realizing, well, who's this guy? So then he started putting together some of his stuff. And I thought it was really cool out of him when he received his first award as Chris Stapleton, not as a songwriter, but as like Chris Stapleton on his own. The first thing he said when he accepted his award was he appreciated the band Steel Drivers supporting him as much as they did, and he appreciated everything that they had went through together. And I thought, you know what, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
But yeah, he wrote "Drink a Beer," and Luke Bryan made that extremely popular years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where Stapleton came from. I've always been a big fan of him. I'm not crazy about some of his newer music.
That's what I was gonna ask. Sometimes these guys that you kind of, you know of them. They're kind of this underground kind of cult type deal, and you're like, man, they're great. And then they kind of make it to that big time. Do you feel that there's a little bit of selling out going on? A little bit of I have to
It's no different than the Avett Brothers. Are you an Avett Brothers fan?
Here and there. I can't say I'm necessarily a fan. I mean, I'll listen to them. I think they're good, but I'm not like, I couldn't name you their songs. I couldn't name you, a whole lot about them. But yeah, I'm not a huge supporter of theirs.
So years ago, they've got 10 CDs out probably from years ago, and they were just the two brothers, the bass player, and the cello player, and that was it. It was just them guys, and we went and watched them in Athens years ago. My wife's brothers got together and bought us 2 tickets for Christmas, and we went and watched them, and it was just them and their 4-piece. And then after they started getting recognized, then they added the drummer, and then they kind of got more of a commercial sound now than their original. Their original was like the hardcore acoustic stuff.
Okay.
And now it's more the full band. They sound commercialized, I guess. And you're 100% right. It happens to so many people. They start out doing what they want, and then eventually they're getting told what to do because the bills need paid. And
right.
I guess I'm not in a position to tell whether they're right or wrong for doing what they're doing, but in the world we live in, eventually everybody has to do what somebody says. So.
Exactly. I think that's what makes me kind of like Jamie Johnson more. I think he's had enough success to where he's comfortable with who he is, and if you listen to his music, I mean, a lot of his stuff is anti-establishment. I'm not playing by your rules. You don't want to play me on radio, that's fine. I'm still going to make a comfortable living. I think he should be bigger than he is because he's that good. But again, he's like, hey man, I'm not selling out. I'm not going down this bubblegum country, this pop country stuff. If I got to stay around the Texas area and just make music because I love to do it, I'm secure enough in myself now. Because Jamie's not only a great singer, but same thing, great songwriter, has written, I don't know, countless #1 hits for other groups. Trace Adkins, I believe, and Montgomery Gentry, guys like that. But yeah, man, that's what I really like about him. He's like, I'm not selling out. That's just not me. And he doesn't he's got the huge beard now. He just dresses in all black. He's like, I'm not trying to go out and commercialize myself and be that video star that everybody's looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a big difference between people who want to be famous and people who want to play music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the more you talk about it, the more you realize it's extremely unfortunate in the music business. Once these people get to a certain level of popularity, next thing you know, man, you're going to do what we're going to tell you to do. And I think a lot of times they don't really have a choice. I think they get so far in that they can't afford not to do what someone tells them to do.
Oh, absolutely. That's 100% true.
But I guess there's that group of people, like Jamie Johnson. He's going to be that guy forever. And even like here recently, Kid Rock gets drunk at a club and makes a bunch of comments about other famous people, and then they ridiculed him for it. And when they finally ask him, do you regret what you? No, I don't regret anything I said.
Right.
That's just. There's certain people out there that I like. Whether what people do or say is what I agree with or what I would want them to do or say. Anybody who says or does something and then later stands by it, you got to respect it.
Right. Yeah. No, don't backtrack. If you're gonna say it and you're gonna mean it, put it out there and stand by it, or don't say it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what a lot of musicians these days. I know there's a ton of musicians out there who play in these local clubs, and you'll go listen to them, and you'll think to yourself, why aren't these guys somewhere else, instead of here? And a lot of them don't want to be anywhere else. They enjoy doing what they're doing.
Right.
I think that's a really cool thing, is just to kind of enjoy what you're doing. And if you're a local bar musician and you think you're ever going to make it rich being a local bar musician, you're wrong.
Exactly, man. It's like you go to Vegas, and if you go to Vegas thinking you're going to be rich, you're probably in for a rude awakening,
Yeah, that one slot machine should have paid me a little more than it did.
Exactly. Well, man, let's go back kind of to the beginning. So you said your first solo show was there at the out back at the Emmett House back in Waverly. So what would a first set list for Charlie Manring look like back in the day?
Oh, I was diehard the 90s alternative music. Anything from Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls, Dave Matthews Band, Tonic, Seven Mary 3. That was all my stuff, was the 90s alternative music, the Verve Pipe.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple, laid back songs that I wrote in high school that I would throw in every now and then if my dad was there, because he always makes me play songs I wrote. I don't know. He's the one guy that is super proud of me being able to do that, and he always makes me do it, and I respect that, so I do it. If he shows up, I'm gonna guarantee to play at least one song I wrote. That way it makes him happy. So
that's awesome.
But
man.
That would have been my set. And it's funny, so when I met my wife, her family, we all met, and they came to BW3's in Chillicothe one night, and a lot of the guys had met me, but none of the wives really had. They'd only just met me, once or so. So they were down here deer hunting, and they all came to Chillicothe, to B-Dubs, to watch me play. And I remember my wife's uncle, his wife, I'll never forget it. She looked at her husband, and she's like, what in the hell is he up there singing? And they're the diehard 60s and 70s country.
Okay.
Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash and George Jones. And
sure.
So I didn't know any of that music. I literally, my closest thing I knew to anything they liked was Garth Brooks.
Right.
And I got into that 60s and 70s country, and now when I play a show, I do a huge mixture of 90s alternative and 60s and 70s country.
Very nice. That's two of the best, man. That's you can't go wrong there.
Yeah, they got me started. I'm a diehard Merle Haggard fan, and they got me started on a lot of that music, and I started learning it. And then, because when we'd all get together down here, have a big bonfire, they wanted to hear country music, and then I got to the point where I would rather play that music than some of the other stuff I knew. But what made it nice was now when I go play somewhere, I can sit there in front of a crowd, and now I try to switch off, song to song. I'll try to go country song, rock song, country song, and that way I can just kind of keep that mixture going throughout the night.
Absolutely, keep everybody involved, because I mean, even if you have a young crowd in there that's our age, they're gonna dig that '90s alternative stuff, and then you got some of the older crowd, man. They're gonna be like, wait a minute, okay, you got some George Jones going, got some Johnny Cash going. These people are gonna love it.
I think some people sometimes they get kind of spooked a little bit when I'm sitting down and they look up at me. A lot of people, they're gonna look at me, and here I'm sitting there in a sleeveless shirt and a bushy beard, mid 30s, and then I go into "He Stops Loving Her Today" by George Jones, and they're like, "What in the world?"
That's awesome, though, man. To be able to have that variety, that's what's cool, and that's what I liked about Bird. He was talking about how he went from same thing, basically. I mean, anything from early on David Allan Coe type stuff to the newer stuff. So that's really cool when you can switch it up like that, and you're not kind of pigeonholed into that one. Well, people like to hear country, so I'm just only gonna play country. You got to keep everybody involved.
Bird literally has one of the craziest variety set lists that you will ever see in your life. I mean, I've watched Bird play before, and I've watched him go from Merle Haggard to Poker Face by Lady Gaga, and it's just a crazy, and it works. It's what the crowd's sitting there and they're listening, because when Bird plays, Bird draws a big crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to several shows to see Bird, and Bird draws a big crowd whenever he plays places. And he gets himself out there and lets everybody know when he's going to be playing places, and he gets a lot of people to come out. And he's got a huge variety of music that he plays. Huge variety.
That's awesome, man. That's one thing I can't wait to do when I get back that way, is I want to go see him play. And now, obviously, I want to, I'd like to see you play. I know you said you're playing a lot more now, and I think I saw where you got some stuff at the stock room going on maybe once a week. You're down that way playing?
Yeah, I did that for the whole month of November. And there's a lot of local places that have the outside shows. So once we get back into like springtime, I'll be back at a lot of the local areas playing outside, and I enjoy that a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy playing on the patios and sitting outside. I really enjoy that.
Very cool, man. That's one thing I've always floated around for like the last 4 or 5 years. I've kind of floated around an idea of like, man, we need to try to get a lot of these groups together. And I think I might have even sent you a message maybe 2 or 3 years ago about some stuff. When I was doing some stuff for ALS research and trying to raise money, I was thinking about putting a little, like, man, let's get a little concert together. Or let's get some people together. And that's something that's still in my head. So hopefully, maybe in the next year or two, heck, maybe we can get some of these local groups together and be like, hey, let's just put this out and let's, get people from the community and the surrounding communities to come in and these guys have their names out there, but let's draw some more attention to them. Let's get some people coming to our area, supporting our town, and also supporting these guys who are out there, busting their butts on the weekends, playing music for everybody to enjoy.
I'll tell you, there is for a small community and small area, like in Jackson County, the amount of musical talent in this county is nuts.
Absolutely.
I mean, you go sit down one time and listen to a Bart Wiseman set, and it's like you're sitting at a bar in Nashville somewhere listening to like a professional musician.
Wow.
Bart is absolutely he is the most talented musician around here. I mean, anytime I get a chance that I can sneak away to go watch Bart play for a little bit, it's awesome. And every year we have a big hog roast down here at the house. It's called the Berlin Bash.
Mm-hmm.
We have it down here every year. And my favorite part is always normally around Saturday night. Once we shut the sound system off, there's about 4 of us that get together around the fire, and we sit there till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just passing the guitar back and forth. playing song after song after song. It's always like me and Bird and Bart and Bird's brother Tommy,
Mm-hmm.
and there's usually a couple other guys that stop in if they get a chance, and it's truly one of the best nights of the year.
Dude, that's just got to be a cool feeling. Just to be able to, okay, you sounded good. Now pass me that guitar. Let me play something. Like, how cool of a feeling.
It is. It's
yeah,
great.
right?
And I love playing harmonica, so I like when them guys are jamming to a song and I can jump in with a harp and play with them. People like Bart can completely destroy a guitar. I mean, he can play lead to any song that anybody plays, whether he's ever heard it or not. It doesn't matter. He can just blend in with you like he's played it 100 times. And I can't play lead guitar. I'm the strummer guy that sits there and plays the acoustic and sings with it. But
Right.
I love picking up the harmonicas and jamming out with people.
It's very cool. Very cool. What early on? What influence? Like, did you have somebody you looked to, or somebody you were like, man, I'm gonna watch some of their videos, or I really want to study how this person, goes about it? Is there one or two people that you looked at and said, okay, I want to try to emulate them, or did you just kind of take pieces, from people here and there that you would see?
I really don't know. If I could tell you one person that I used to watch like nonstop, every time I could watch a video of them playing, it was Kurt Cobain.
Mm.
So I was this crazy Nirvana fan when I got to high school, and he's a left-hander.
Right.
So when I was sitting there trying to watch him play and me trying to figure out a Nirvana song, I had to watch what he was doing, and I had to play it backwards because I'm right-handed.
Right.
And imagine him facing the other way. It was kind of weird looking at it to figure out what in the world he was doing. But I got into that, and my all-time favorite, 100%, is when Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds gets together and jams out.
Man, that's fun. That's fun to. That's definitely fun to listen to. Fun to watch.
And before I die, you mark my word, I will go to a Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds concert.
Absolutely.
I haven't got to that point in life yet, but I'm going to.
That's awesome, man. I know, good friends with Matt Peterson, and Matt was always a huge Dave fan. And he kind of turned me on to Dave Matthews back in high school. And I mean, I'm not like a diehard, oh my God, it's Dave Matthews type of guy, especially now. His newer stuff's okay, but I really dig Crash and like Ants Marching and all that, kind of our era type stuff. But I went up and saw Dave play. Geez, what would that have been? Probably 2000 or 2001, maybe. Up in Columbus, I believe it was at Polaris before Polaris shut down, and tremendous show, just unbelievable. You go in. I didn't know a lot of Dave's songs. I didn't know them word for word, but man, as soon as he licks that guitar, I was like, oh my, this is gonna be a fun show, and it was a blast.
That was funny that you said that about Matt Peterson, because so I would have been, I'm thinking I was a freshman, and I can't remember, but me and him had a class together, and I can't remember what it was, but I got to know Matt, and I kept telling him how much Dave Matthews Band sucked. I hated him. And he comes to school and brings me the Dave and Tim Live at Luther College double CD set and said, take this home and listen to it. And the minute I started listening to that, I immediately fell in love with the Dave and Tim sound. And then I got into the Dave Matthews Band with their sound. And, there's a lot of people out there that just thinks that Dave Matthews is horrible, but I absolutely love their music.
Mm-hmm.
They're going through the same thing that I think anybody goes through after you play for so long. Eventually you start trying to play different music and it just isn't very good.
Right, like you said, people's tastes have changed, and I think when you're that successful, man, just stick with what brought you to the show. Don't try to conform to what's going on around you, man, because you made millions and millions of fans on what you brought to the party to begin with, man. Stick with that. I mean, I remember watching, I think Boyd Tinsley came out and did like a 10-minute violin or what I think it was a violin set. 10 minutes, dude. He's fiddling away, just like, this guy's a maniac. Like it was unbelievable. That's my biggest memory of that show. It went for almost a solid 10 minutes. Like holy.
Yeah, he's got
smokes.
some of the world's best musicians in his band.
Right.
Yeah, they're all amazing.
Crazy, man. What's your favorite concert you've ever been to? Do you have somebody that you've went to and you've been like, wow, that just was head and shoulders above everybody I've ever seen?
I'm gonna be honest with you. This is gonna sound probably not like me, but I've hardly been to any concerts.
Really?
Yeah, we've watched. We go to a little local thing every year up north in northern Ohio. A good buddy of mine, they live in this little tiny town, and they have this country music festival, and they always bring in one decent name,
Mm-hmm.
but really, as far as setting at an actual concert, I've just not been to a whole lot. There's that time, and years ago, that the only concerts I went to was like the shows that the county fairs would put on, where they would bring in a good country artist, and I don't know. I'm not huge on the big gigantic crowds,
Mm-hmm.
so I've never been a concert goer.
Understandable. I think now anymore it's almost like, oh man, I got to go see this person perform so I can take my picture at the concert and put it on social media. I'm gonna sit there with my phone up the whole time and take video of every song, but then I'm not gonna really experience it. After the concert's over, I'm gonna be like, wow, I missed that because I was trying to video it. It's like, dude, put your phone away, sit there and just like escape,
Enjoy the
man.
music.
Yeah, escape into it. I went to see Billy Joel I got to see him play at the Hollywood Bowl back a few years ago, and Say Goodbye to Hollywood's one of my favorites of his. He doesn't do it much at live shows anymore, but man, he played that in Hollywood, and I was lost. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm in Hollywood right now. I'm hearing him play Say Goodbye to Hollywood in the Hollywood Bowl. Like, put the phones up, man, and just sit and soak that moment in. It was really cool.
When we went and watched the Avett Brothers in Athens, so I had only heard very little of their stuff, but I knew I liked them. So we're sitting there, my wife and I went, and they came out, and the one brother comes out by himself, and he does Murder in the City. If you ever get a chance, look that song up.
Mm-hmm.
But he does it by himself, and it's all acoustic. And I'm sitting there in this crowd of people, and I just started crying.
Wow.
I mean, the words to the song it's crazy, and it reflected so much on my life and what I had went through, and I'm that kind of music lover. Like, I get into, like, when I first heard, I was driving home from work one night. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I was tired. I just got off work, and I listened to Tyler Childers' "Follow You to Virgie" for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blows me away. There's songs that I can listen to, and I'm so emotionally involved when I hear music. I mean, I listen to the words and to everything about us individual songs, and I just get into them so much. I'm a diehard music lover, but I've never been a huge concert goer.
Isn't it amazing how music and movies and even to a degree for myself, sports can just touch you in a way that it brings those emotions, man. I don't know if you ever heard a song by Conway Twitty called "That's My Job," but dude,
Yeah, oh yeah.
when that song comes on, sometimes it's like I have to turn the channel. I love the song so much that I can't listen to that thing and it not get your mind thinking about the words of that song, man. When he gets to that last verse, it's like, dang, dude, that just pulls your heart out right there.
Oh yeah, it is, and that's the kind of nights you have, but you have them when you need them.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Sometimes you need that kind of a night.
I agree, man. Music definitely does that to you. I couldn't imagine. I had to drive once for about, I don't know, 8 or 10 hours. I was in California, and I was driving from Southern California to Northern California, and the battery in my car kept going out. It was this rental car I had, and it kept going out. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I didn't want to suck any energy from any unnecessary places. I didn't know. I was like, man, I don't know what's going to cause this thing to go out. So I had to turn everything off. So I'm driving 10 hours with dead silence. You know what I mean? I'm like singing in my own head, thinking, man, I just want to listen to some good music right now. But the way that kind of can put you in a mood and change your mood for the better, for the worse, it's like, dude, it has that effect on you if you're really, like you said, if you're really a diehard, really into it, and just listen to the words. Sometimes it's not even words. You just listen to the first lick of a certain song, or you hear the piano start of a certain song, and your mind automatically goes somewhere else.
Music can. Everybody's got their story.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got their thing that, in one way or another, if they're a diehard music person, everybody's got their story in their life that music has pulled them through one way or the other. And I think everybody's got it. Mine was, I was 20 years old, and we lost Mom. She battled cancer for 5 years. She passed away at 50 years old. I was 20. I became an absolute 7-day-a-week drunk train wreck.
Right.
And it was miserable time in my life. And music, I remember laying in the house at night, and I would blare Damien Rice. You ever listen to Damien Rice?
I've heard the name. I remember the name. I couldn't tell you anything they sang, but I remember the name for sure.
So he had an album he came out with called O-Sides, and I would sit there every single night and that was the only way I could get to sleep, was just sitting there listening. I would get to about the 4th track on the CD every night, and then I would wake up and it was time to go to work. But I couldn't go to sleep unless I had, that music playing. And, music and family and friends, that's what pulls you through rough times. Music has got me through a lot of really bad times. Being able to play music has got me through a lot of rough times.
All right, man. That's and I know it's been obviously so long already, but you always hate to hear that. And I always think about your mom whenever I think about you guys. Whenever I see your dad, and it's she was definitely a good woman, man. And that's
oh yeah.
I can't imagine at 50 years old. That's it's like, dude, I'm almost 40. That's 50 years old. You always think of your parents as so much older, so much. Like when we were growing up. Oh yeah, your parents are so much older. I'm like, well, no, they were. They were my age whenever I was in, playing bitty league basketball or doing stuff like this. Like, what? Like they had a, you know what I mean? That's just, to think at 50 they're gone, dude. I can't imagine having to go through that. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that and your family had to go through that. But like you said, man, music was there for you and helped you get through those tough times.
Yeah, it has been for a lot of times. We've been able to sit down and play music for hours and hours and hours at a time when we needed it. And I'm fortunate enough, I know a lot of really good musicians. And I get the opportunity several times a year to sit down with those good musicians and play. And it's amazing being able to do that.
I bet that's awesome. Did Keith get any of this musical gene? Does he play at all? Does he like to sing? Is he kind of the opposite of that?
He's everybody in the community's neighborhood mechanic.
a different skill, man. That's a good skill to have as well.
Keith can do to a vehicle what I could never dream of doing on a guitar. So he can literally, when it comes to a diesel engine, he can literally fix anything. And anybody in the community here that has any type of automotive issues, you always get a hold of Keith, because if he doesn't know what it is, it won't take long and he'll know what's wrong with it.
Very nice. I'll keep that in mind, man. I'll let Dad know. Hey, if you ever get any problems, call Big Keith up, because he still
absolutely
he still thinks of you guys as Big Keith and Little Charlie. Like that's how he still that's how he still anytime he talks about you guys. Oh yeah, saw Big Keith and Little Charlie today.
Oh yeah.
So funny, man. So when you first met your wife, give me a little bit of backstory about that. How'd you guys meet? What brought that relationship on?
Oh man, this is the most romantic story you'll ever hear in your life. So I met my wife at the Kenton Coon Dog Nationals.
Oh, that's where a lot of the relationships happen. That's like a Hallmark movie, dude.
I'm telling you, it's crazy, isn't it? So this group of guys I worked with at the tree service, so after Mom passed away, they said, we got to get Charlie out of the house. We got to get him out of the house. We're going to Charlie, you're going to load up. You're going to go on a 4-day adventure with us to Kenton. And this is something they did every year. And it was literally, so this family owned this 100-acre field in Kenton, Ohio. And it was enormous. I mean, I'm talking like 100,000 plus people in and out of those gates in a weekend. Just, it was packed full of campers and tents, and everyone rode their golf carts around, and they would hire in live country musicians. Like, I remember every year Shenandoah played there. I watched Little Texas play there, and you would just drive your golf cart out into the middle of this field with your cooler of beer, and you just sit there and watch these amazing country musicians. I found out Ronnie Millsap was blind at the Kenton Coondog National. I had no clue. So, I ended up, there was a little bluegrass tent there out in the middle of this field, and I sat down one night with these guys, and I just kind of introduced myself to them, and they didn't take me in, very great the first year. They didn't. I was a young kid with earrings in my ears and shaggy hair, and while I was sitting there listening to music, I met my wife's dad and 2 uncles, and we got talking. They're all from like northern Ohio, like right around 45 minutes to an hour, like northwest of Lima. So they're at Kenton, and they get talking to me, and they started asking me where I was from, and I told them I was from Wellston, and they's like, well, we hunt and rent a cabin in Byer every year for deer season. And I said, well, my dad was born and raised in Byer. So they said, well, when we come down this year, they would always go into town and go to like Coop's Bar. Mm-hmm. So they said, when we get down this year, we'll just give you a call. So they gave me a call. I ended up meeting up with them. And then over time, I became really close friends with them. Well, a year later, the people from the tree service kind of backed out on me at the last minute, and they didn't want to go to Kenton. They couldn't go. They had other stuff come up. So I was like, well, I'm already packed. I'm going by myself.
I'm not missing this daggone Coondog Festival.
Yeah, I'm going to this Coondog Festival by myself. So I loaded up my tent, and I got up there, and like by Friday night, all of the guys that I had met before, their wives and their kids all showed up on Friday night. And then I met, unfortunate for her dad, I met the daughter, and it was about 3 or 4 years later, we were planning our wedding.
How cool is that? Isn't it crazy how that works sometimes, huh?
And the craziest thing is now her mom and dad moved and bought a house in Athens. Her oldest brother is now the guidance counselor at Wellston City Schools.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and it's crazy. And I'm very close friends with Ashley's entire family. We hang out with her mom and dad, her aunt and uncle all the time, and we've all became really, really close. We're family.
Right. That's awesome. That's a great story, man. That's maybe they still have this Coondog Festival. Maybe I'll have to head up there one of these days.
Yeah. And the kicker of it is whenever it comes, we were both. So I was working at the tree service, and she was working. She was going through school, and I think she was working like part-time at a gas station here by the house. And we decided to get married, and we didn't have enough money to buy wedding bands, so I had to sell my Ithaca shotgun to buy our wedding bands with. Man, it's the most romantic story you'll ever hear in your life.
If somebody ever asks me, man, where are you from? And I tell them Wellston, and they say, well, what's it like? I'm just going to have them to listen to this podcast, at least this part of this podcast, because I'm like, that's spot on, dude.
Yeah, it is. It is the most romantic love story you will ever hear in your life.
That is fantastic. What? So first time you played for her, first time she heard you sing. What? Little nervous, little butterflies in there, or what were you thinking?
I don't know. Back then nothing made me nervous. I think I would have. I would play music pretty well for anybody if they was willing to listen. Mm-hmm. Years ago, but I don't know that I was really nervous. It was just I didn't play the type of music that they had all been raised on. But Ashley, where she was younger, she was into a lot of the alternative style music that I was into. So when I was around like the older group, I would always play country and stuff. But anytime it was me and her and our group down here partying or whatever, I always played the '90s music that I liked, and she really likes that type of music too. So, but we both have a pretty big variety of music that we listen to, so it works out pretty good.
Very cool, man. You said you guys have a couple children?
Yep, we've got my daughter Catherine, and she's 6, and we've got my daughter Lily, and she just turned 5 on Saturday.
Wow, cool ages right there, huh?
Yep, my youngest kid's 5. It's crazy to believe that they're that old already because it doesn't seem like they should be, but they are.
No doubt. How did we get so old so quickly? Like, what the heck happened?
I don't know.
I see.
And
Go ahead.
I even waited later in life, before we started talking about having kids, because like my brother, his son, I'm thinking Braden's like is gonna be, I think, 11 years old.
Oh wow.
And my sister, her Josie just turned 13, or is getting ready to turn 13 at the end of this month. So we've got a couple of the younger kids in the family, and it feels really weird knowing that they're already, Catherine's going to be a second grader coming up next year, and then Lily will be starting kindergarten.
Wow.
So it's crazy how quick time goes.
It goes super quick, and that's what I was talking to Matt Peterson about on the last show I did, man. And he's got a girl who just turned 16. It's like, man, what? We were just on our senior trip about 2 or 3 months ago. It seems like, what the heck? You got a 16-year-old?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Life happens, man. It happens pretty quick, and that's one thing about working in a hospital setting like I'm doing right now, and seeing, working with folks who are 90, even 100 years old, man, and just talking about how quick it goes, and seeing, like, man, enjoy it. You always heard your folks or guidance counselors in school say, hey, man, enjoy this last year of high school, or enjoy these couple years, because it's going to go quicker than you realize. And man, they weren't lying.
That's what my wife does for a living, actually, too. She's a nurse, and she's a manager at a nursing home in Athens.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So she gets to deal with that same setting every day. You guys are way tougher than I'll ever be, being able to do that. So.
And I'll tell you, man, the nurses and the CNAs and the people who are there with the patients all the time, tending to their every need. Hey, they need changed. Hey, they need this. They need that. You got to remove their catheter, put the catheter in. That stuff. Those guys are the ones that they're the tough ones, man. I just go in and try to help them heal a little bit, but I can't imagine being a nurse and going through that stuff. My hat's off to them for sure. Especially I work at an acute care hospital, so. We see our share of people who are okay and they've just had knee replacements, but we see a lot of stroke victims and, people who are just not in good shape. And it is tough. It plays, you go in having a bad day. You think you're having a bad day. Oh, my team lost. This sucks. Everything sucks. Oh, this person may never walk again. Okay, my day's not as bad as I thought. You know what I mean? It's kind of a reality check, and like, dude, put things into perspective. You're not having that bad of a day. You're and I'm not a complainer. I don't go in and complain. I go in, hey, let's do my job. Try to smile for these folks. They want to, they don't want to be in the hospital, so at least try to pep them up a little bit. Be cheerful. Be the best you can in front of them. Your day's not that bad, man. Get in there and try to make a difference with somebody's lives, because some of these folks are just, they're never going to bounce back, unfortunately, and it's a tough part to see, and it's a tough part of life, man. I mean, you know better than anybody, man. Death can come at any time, and not to be morbid or anything, but dude, it's not fun, but that's kind of part of life,
My dad was talking to me about that the other day. He brought that up, and he said, you hate to look at it that way, but any day could be your day, and it is hard thinking about that. I think about, so like, older people. They get in their 80s, and they start thinking, well, maybe I should have a will, or maybe I should do this. And I'm sitting here at 35 years old telling myself, these days, you know what? We should have something like that put together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't do it when you're young, because the last thing you want to think about is something bad happening to you or one of your family members. But, man, it can happen every day, any day. And that line of work you guys do, I can't do it. I try to be the world's toughest badass, but I'm the biggest baby in the world, and I just can't handle it. The whole getting to know somebody and then not being able to, I just can't handle that.
Yeah.
So, hats off to what you guys do, because I would never be able to be in a profession where I had to handle stuff like that.
Yeah, man, it's rewarding when you see people get better and you see people walk out and they thank you for helping them. But then you see the flip side. I was working with a patient, the other day, and I'm in the next room over, and the people in the next room are just, I mean, they're so just distraught, crying. Their family member has just passed away, and I mean, it's just like, oh my God, it almost made me sick to my stomach. It's these people, their lives are changed forever. It's the person that, maybe a husband, maybe a dad, maybe a grandpa, maybe whatever. They're never going to see them again. They're never going to talk to them again, at least not here on earth. And it's like, man, it sucks, dude. When I first started this job, I come from kind of an outpatient background. So typically people come to us, hey, you just had your knee replaced, you just had your shoulder replaced. You come in, we work with you, then you go, then the next person comes in. Well, when I came here, totally different ball game. I'm working with, like I said, folks who are, had a stroke 2 days ago or 3 days ago, or somebody who, just they're paralyzed or things like this. But I was working with a patient within my first month of being here, and this gentleman we were doing great. We were up, we were moving, he just had like a hip replaced or something like that, and we were doing like just some standing stuff, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. I was like, okay, man, your family's here. The family comes in. Oh, hey, Dad, you're doing great. I said, okay, buddy, we're going to go one more time. We stand up. All of a sudden, he's like, I got to sit down. He looked awful. He started sounding bad. Lays down, man, and he just starts like gasping for breath. I'm thinking, man, is this guy hyperventilating? Like, what the heck is going on? We get him down. We go out, call for the nurse. Nurse comes in. Next thing I know, man, code blue, here comes all the doctors. They're having to vent this guy, and they saved him. So they stabilized him, they saved him. He goes down to ICU. I felt better about myself. At least he's got a fighting chance. He's down there, he's okay. Next thing I know, man, the dude passes away. And I'm like, this guy's in his 60s, and I've never met him until today, and I'm the last person on earth he ever talked to.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? That's just a weird feeling, like... and with his family there, it's like, oh my gosh, their lives have changed forever, and his last words were to a complete stranger.
Yep.
You just never know.
It's a crazy, unpredictable world we live in.
That is true, but man, well, let's kick it back up a notch. Sorry for going down that road. Not sure what took us to that kind of dark part there, but let's get back to some music, man. I texted you the other day, and I was like, Charlie, what if I might want you to play something for me, man. Would you be willing to play a song for me if I had a request? You said yes. Is that something?
Okay.
Is that something you would still be willing to do if I asked you to maybe do a couple verses for me?
Yeah.
All right, man. So the song, I mean, I saw you put out a video of this maybe a couple years ago. It's still the one I always go to. I'm like, man, I love your version of Atlantic City by Springsteen. I'm like, okay. I absolutely, like, it's fantastic, dude. And if you would do a little bit of that, do all of it, whatever you want to do, I'd love to hear you play that song.
Okay. Yeah, I got a guitar here with me. I don't have any harps with me, but...
Hey, that's fine, dude. That's guitar will work, my man.
All right. Well, I'll play you here some of it then. We'll play all of it.
That sounds good.
All right. Can you hear that okay through your phone?
Yeah, maybe a little bit louder if you can, if you're able to get a little closer.
All right. That better?
Better, yes, sir.
All right. With a poor chicken man, Philly last night, and they blew up his house too. out on the boardwalk, they're getting ready for a fight. I'm gonna see what them old rattling boys can do. Now the struggle's busting in from out of state, and the DA can't get no relief. When it's time to rumble now on promenade, and the gambling commission's hanging on by the skin of its teeth. They say everything dies, maybe that's a fact. Maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fish your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I got a job, putting my money away, and I got the kind of debt that no honest man can pay. Not true what we had from the Central Trust. And I bought us 2 tickets on that Go City bus. They say everything dies, maybe that's a fact. Maybe everything dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, get your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Love me uptight and our love may be cold, but with you, girl, forever I'll stay. Now I'm going out where them sands are turning to gold. Put your stockings on, hear them nights get cold. And I've been looking for a job, but they're hard to find. Down here is winners and losers, baby, don't want to end up on the wrong side. But I'm tired of winding up on the losing end. See, I met this guy last night, gonna do a favor for him. They say everything dies, maybe that's a fact. Maybe everything dies, someday comes back. Put your makeup on, put your hair up pretty, don't meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Come on, meet me tonight. Come on, meet me tonight. Come on, meet me tonight. Come on, meet me tonight in Atlantic City.
So good, dude. Like you kill that song. When I first saw that, I was like, dude, that's amazing.
That's what I love doing, man. I love sitting around playing music.
No kidding. That's. Do you have a favorite song that you play? Do you have what's your favorite? What's your go-to?
Probably like people ask me that all the time. I never really give them a good answer, but one of my favorite ones to play, and I do it a little bit different than they do it on like with the full band. But I like playing 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20. That's like my favorite song to play altogether.
Very cool. And we talked about them earlier, dude. Yourself or Someone Like You. That album is just. I can listen to that today, and it takes me back to 1998. Like, such a good album.
Yeah, the last song on the CD, Hang.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
I do.
I remember nobody ever like really listened to that song, and I just sat around and I would listen to that song all the time, that acoustic version of Hang. But that was one CD at the time in that era that you could put in and listen to all 12 songs on that CD. Mm-hmm. There was not a bad song on that entire CD.
And that's super rare. That's really rare. Sometimes you'll get. I remember back in the day, I was a huge, and to this day still, but Hootie and the Blowfish were huge. When we were kids, 93, 94, and Cracked Review. I was like, man, this CD. I think it sold like, I don't know, 10 or 20 million albums, something crazy. But that CD was as great as it was. I always stopped at like I don't know, track 7 or 8. Like, I never listened to the last 3 or 4 songs. It seems like there's always those few songs on the CD that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one, or I never heard that one before. You know, to have one,
like they were fillers.
exactly. One CD that comes to mind that is the same way as the Matchbox 20 is "Rope in the Wind" by Garth Brooks. To me, that one,
Yeah.
every song on that CD or that album is fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I was a huge Garth Brooks fan years ago. That was like the only country I listened to because there for a while. All right, so do you remember when what was the name of the company that would send you the buy one CD for full price and get 7 other ones for a penny?
Publishers Clearinghouse, man, of course.
So I remember my CDs.
Or wait, maybe was it Columbia House, not Publishers Clearinghouse? Columbia House. I'm sorry. Yeah, Publishers Clearinghouse is the sweepstakes where you win the $1 million or whatever. But yeah, Columbia House. Absolutely. That I think Columbia House.
About 7 CDs for a penny.
Right, and you had to peel off those little stickers and put them on there and send the thing in.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I remember that.
And I remember getting. So I got Matchbox 20. That the album we were just talking about, and I remember getting Everclear, the album that had "I Will Buy You a Garden" on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was that it had like "I'll Buy You a Garden" and "Father of Mine."
Mm-hmm.
And I got Pearl Jam, "Immortality." That was when it first came out. And I remember getting a Garth Brooks CD. And I got Dave Matthews when they came out with Everyday.
Okay.
But that was the kind of mix I had, you know. I threw in a Pearl Jam, a Garth Brooks, an Everclear, and a Matchbox 20. And there was another one that was kind of out there too, and I don't really remember which one it was. It was a Smashing Pumpkins CD, the 1979.
Okay.
CD.
Yeah, okay. I was never a huge fan of theirs.
Yeah, and they had those couple songs that like Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And they had those couple songs that I really liked, but I'm a lot like you on that. I wasn't a huge fan of theirs. But back then, I listened to anything that had that 90s alternative sound to it. You know, I loved 7 Mary 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I loved them. And Bush. I loved the Bush. The album, was it the one that had Swallowed on it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God, I loved that.
No kidding.
That's the kind of music I used to play. And then me and a boy that played music with me years ago, we got in every single night. We closed with "Come Down" by Bush.
Oh, nice. That's a good ender. Yeah.
Yeah. 2-piece acoustic closer was always "Come Down" at the end of the night. People loved it.
Oh, I bet. Now, do you and Bird ever get together? Do you guys, besides out at the Berlin Bash or anything like that, have you guys ever played an actual show together?
Yeah, we've played probably once or twice, and then like we would just switch off, every other song or whatever. But we haven't had he's tried to get me a couple times to come share a night with him, and it seems I tell him all the time, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm putting you off, but almost every time he gets a hold of me, we've always got stuff going on. Our life is so hectic right now, so. Sure,
man. Yeah, heck yeah, man. With a 5 and 6-year-old, I can't imagine.
There's always, and if there's nothing going on with them, we've got something going on. When the summer gets here, we try to live as many weekends in the camper as we can.
Mm-hmm.
The kids really enjoy camping. We enjoy camping. We'll take our camper to a couple of the flea markets that we set up at and spend the whole weekend there. So
very cool, man. Now, what do the kids think about Dad singing? Do they ever be like, "Dad, sing me a song"? Do they have favorite?
Oh, yeah.
Do they have favorite songs they want you to sing to them?
Not really like my kind of music, but they, all that stuff that little kids listen to, it's all really easy to pick up, like Wheels on the Bus and all that stuff.
Do you have have you been working on an acoustic version of Baby Shark?
Oh my God. Isn't that nuts that somebody took a song like that and just they became I'm assuming they're millionaires by now.
It's absolutely it's like the Macarena back in the day, man. It's like, how dumb is this? But if you were the person who thought of it, it's like, well, I'm not so dumb as living in the lap of luxury here, am I?
The crazy thing that these kids do now, so like my two girls absolutely live on, there's like 2 or 3 channels they watch on YouTube. So my youngest daughter, Lily, so for her birthday, she just about lost it when she opened up her 2 shirts she just got for her birthday from Grayson Stevens.
Really?
Have you seen that on YouTube?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's this show where they do all this. It's horrible to watch. It's miserable. And then my oldest daughter watches Robbie and Tori, and Robbie is this boy that lives out in L.A., I'm assuming. He's got different colored hair every episode. And they take all of the 5-minute craft videos and prove whether they work or not.
Huh.
And my 6-year-old watches that religiously 7 days a week. And I've caught myself sitting here with her watching it, and she'll get up and walk out of the room, and I'll sit there and keep watching it. I'm like, well, I wonder if that one works or not.
Dude, that is hilarious. I told the story the other day about a lady I was getting ready to treat her, and she was watching like a soap opera or something, and we got to talking about soap operas. And my mom used to watch Days of Our Lives, right? So she would watch it. She would record it through the day because, you know, her and Dad, they were at work. Dad would record it for her. When she got off, she would watch Days of Our Lives. So Days of Our Lives would be playing. I'd be doing my homework, or I'd be finished with my homework, and just to go in and, you know, sit in the living room with Mom or Mom and Dad, and it would be playing. And it got to a point where I was like, I know all the characters. You know, I'm 12 years old, and I know all the characters. I know all the storylines, what's going on. Finally, my mom quits watching it, probably in like the late 90s. Well, I find myself in the summers when school was out. Here I am at 1 o'clock in the afternoon watching Days of Our Lives.
I knew every single character on Days of Our Lives.
Exactly, dude. And finally, I'm like, dude, what are you doing with your life? So I put a stop to that. I put a stop to that. But
1 o'clock Days of Our Lives and 2 o'clock Passion.
My grandmother did that. She loved that. It had some kind of like witch on there and some little guy or something.
Crazy. Fire falling from the sky.
Yeah, man. But that's not a story that I'm excited to tell, and I probably should edit that out of this podcast. But it's like, I think we all go through those spurts and we look back and go, why did I spend every Saturday night watching Baywatch? Of course, when you're, 12, 13, 14, and you see these ladies, running down the beach. There's a reason you watch, Baywatch at that time. But you look back, you're like, man, those shows were awful. What the heck was I doing?
Yeah, try watching an episode of Power Rangers these days.
Oh, man. You know what? I never watched that whenever I was growing up. I think it came along at a time when I had just passed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's all we watched when we were kids. Me and Keith watched Power Rangers every single day.
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
I've watched some of the new ones now, and it's so horrible.
You know what's funny, man, is I go to a lot of comic conventions. I'm not a comic book guy. I'm not a cartoon guy, but I go for, they have a lot of actors, a lot of big-time movie actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger, people like that do these comic conventions. So I go to a lot of these shows, and almost every show I go to, the Green Power Ranger is there. I think his name's Jason Frank or something like that. He's turned into an MMA fighter, but he's at all of these shows living off of that Power Ranger status from, 1998 or 1999 or whatever. And I think recently they've gotten more of them to come. They see, heck, there's still a market, and people our age are now in their 30s. People our age when we were, when the show was on are now in their 30s, and they have that little bit of extra money they can spend to meet these guys. So like, hey, do this for a weekend, make a couple grand, and but it's crazy. It's crazy to see, dude, that's the same Power Rangers that were on when I was a kid. These guys are showing up here.
So I have to ask, you went to the Comic-Cons?
I have. I actually go quite often when I'm home. I'll make a trip.
Have you got to meet a Peter Griffin impersonator?
I have not.
That's the one guy I would have to meet if I ever went to a Comic-Con.
Does he show up to a lot of them, does he? Does he do
I guess, yeah. I've watched a lot of his videos on on YouTube, and he goes to all these Comic-Cons, and he looks and sounds exactly like Peter Griffin.
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
I always thought, man, that'd be funny as heck to go in there and see him, and him come up and talk to you, and it just sound exactly like Peter Griffin.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm ever at a show and he's there, I'll go out of my way to try to meet that guy for you.
You should. Get a picture with him and send it to me.
That's so funny, man. Well, Charlie, plug a little bit about, I know you played at the Stock Room. You said you have a couple other ones here or there. Anything coming up that, that maybe the listeners will be able to come see you, or anything you got to plug, website, anything like that?
On Facebook, I pretty well put everything when it's coming up. And anymore, I try to stay kind of local here. I get booked at like Rowdy's in Jackson, and I'm a member of the American Legion. So in Wellston, they book me probably 4 or 5 times a year. I just played a show at 6 Cents, the brewery in Jackson, and it went really good. We had a nice little crowd there, and it was a good time. And anybody in this local area that ever sees my name on the side of a billboard somewhere, just come out and check me out. My shows are, well, you can tell probably already, I'm a talker, but when I'm playing music, I don't like to just go song to song to song. I try to entertain. Mm-hmm. And whether it's setting up there and talking, telling jokes or whatever, I try to do a little bit of everything when I'm playing a show, instead of just like going, well, this song's this or this song's that. I try to make it really enjoyable, and I try my best to keep a crowd into it. It's really hard anymore to get crowds to come out and watch you at a place. And it's getting harder, I think. These days, you used to be able to go out to a bar and get a beer for $1.50 and watch somebody play music. And now, everything's totally different.
No kidding.
Now most places you go, a beer's going to cost you between $2.50 and $3. A lot of places, when you play somewhere, they tend to charge like a cover charge, and there's a lot of people who are against paying cover charges to go in and sit at a bar. So it's a lot different these days. And plus, all the people that I grew up with, we've all got kids and families now, so it's really hard to get out and go all the time and watch your favorite people play. Sure.
That makes sense. And there's so much more to do inside now, man. You got a phone and you got entertainment for hours. It's like, I want to go out tonight, but we got Netflix. I got 10,000 different movies I can watch. Or there's so much stuff that's causing everybody to be more sedentary and just hang around the house. When it's like, dude, get out there and support. Like like on Bird's podcast, it's like support local music, man. And you touched on it. There's so many good groups. There's so much good talent in that area. Get out there, even if it's once every few months. Get out there and support, man. Go check it out. Get out of the house. Make it a point to go support everybody.
And this time of year is rough. Like right now, we got the Buckeyes going to the playoffs.
Never heard of them.
Every Saturday this year, watching the undefeated Buckeyes play every Saturday. I've not even let myself book on a Saturday when the Buckeyes are playing.
This part will be edited out of my podcast. It's absolutely. We had technical difficulties.
Don't tell me who you're rooting for.
Oh man, I'm a diehard Michigan fan. I've been a Michigan fan since I was a little guy. But it's funny. I had a conversation with a lady yesterday. She wasn't even my patient. She was the roommate to a patient that I was treating, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm from Ohio." I said, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "I'm from Gahanna." I was like, really? I was like, that's really close to where I'm from. And she immediately went into this Buckeye talk, and I immediately turned my attention away from her and back to my patient. I was like, I've got nothing else. But when I was walking away, being polite, I was like, nice to meet you from Ohio. It was good to meet you. And she gave me the go. I don't know if I can say this. She gave me the go Bucks. She gave me the go Bucks. And you're supposed to give it back to her, and I just walked out of the room. I was like, I can't even look at you right now. I got to go wash my hands. I feel dirty.
a good one of my really close friends. He is from Michigan, so he roots for the Buckeyes throughout the year until they play Michigan.
No, he's not from Michigan. Then you tell him to stay.
He's-
No, you tell him to stay in Ohio. We don't root for Ohio State anytime. If you're a Michigan fan, you can't do it.
No, I don't root for Michigan anytime, even if it's going to help us in some way throughout the year as far as the playoffs go. I still don't root for them.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm not one of those guys who will make excuses and be just crap on the program. That program is so it's obviously one of the three most elite with Alabama and Clemson over the last 10 years, dude. They're just at a different level, and it pains me as a Michigan fan, especially when Meyer was there, because man, and if you've heard any other podcast, I don't like that guy. I didn't like that guy at Florida, and I really was a big Tim Tebow fan. I just couldn't watch. There's something about Urban that was just a little bit too sneaky and shady and snaky for me.
Yeah.
But I really like this new coach. As red as his cheeks might, his cheeks might get, I like this coach a lot, man. I think he's a classy guy. But he stepped into that perfect situation with the talent they got up there, dude. Chase Young is on another level. Dobbins is unbelievable. Then they get, oh man, quarterback's leaving. Oh, that's okay. We got another one coming in with Justin Fields coming in from Georgia and just stepping in, and it's like, man, does it ever stop? Like, there's got to be a time where something, where you maybe lose a game.
The greatest thing about Ryan Day is his comment before the Northwestern game this year. So we went into Northwestern as like a 30-some point favorite in the spread, and they asked him in the conference before the game, they were like, so this is more or less a practice week for you? And he said, no, this is more or less a championship game for us. He said, every game we're going to play this year is going to be as if we were playing for the national championship. He said, there is no game that is somebody less than us. We're going to play them like we're playing them for a national title. And I was like, you know what? That's the kind of guy I want coaching my favorite football team.
Absolutely. And he just seems to be, like you said, you see those press conferences, and he just seems to be level-headed, head on straight. There's not any arrogance. There's not any I'm better than you type. And again, harping back on Meyer, I think he had that. I think he had a lot of that kind of arrogance about him that I just didn't like. I really like Jim Tressel, and I told this when I was talking to Peterson last week or 2 weeks ago. I like Tressel, as a person. I thought he was a good person, a good coach. I really liked the way he handled himself. But man, the success up there is just what a team. I mean, if you're a fan of that team, dude, you're living on the hog.
Well, it's the only team I've got winning games this year, because my other teams that I root for diehard haven't done anything, and that's both Cincinnati teams. Right. I'm a Cincinnati diehard Reds and Bengals fan, and we've not had a good year, so I got to depend on the Buckeyes to pull through for me.
Well, hey, man, are you excited about, probability of Burrow coming in there next year, staying close to home, and being the Bengals quarterback next year? What do you think?
Yeah, and the Joe Burrow thing, there's so many people that are on different sides when it comes to that topic, especially, here in Ohio. There's a lot of people that root for him because, he came from the Buckeyes and he was a local, and they want to see him do good. And then there's other people that think, well, you know what? That's fine and dandy, but, he's gone now, and Fields is a great quarterback. So you've kind of got that argument floating around between people, but you can't deny what Burrows is. And I'll tell you something cool, and my wife just told me about this tonight when she got home from work. So during his Heisman speech, he made a comment about being from Athens County and the amount and the level of poverty that was around the area. Mm-hmm. They started a GoFundMe page for the Athens County Food Pantry. This morning when she got to work, it was at $61,000.
Wow.
When she got off of work, it was at $160,000.
Wow.
So there's a lot of support, for Burrows and for what he said, and there's a lot of people rooting for him. And The only thing I hate for the poor guy, if he does go to the Bengals, we don't have an offensive line to protect him.
Right. They definitely got some changes to make up there in Cincinnati, man. They gotta start from the ground up. It's to that point of, I mean, for a while you had, AJ Green to depend on, and now he's kind of been hurt, and his days are probably numbered there. And it's like, you can't really name. I can't really name a star for that team.
I know, and that's the way. I mean, I'm probably, as far between professional sports, I am a way bigger baseball fan than I am a football fan. But college football is probably my all-time favorite sport to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
My Cincinnati Reds, man, it's just not good.
They have pieces. That's the thing, man. They have pieces. They just signed Mike Moustakas, which I think was a pretty good signing. He'll
Yeah, it was great. It was a great deal.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they have pieces. They need some pitching, but you can't recruit and sign good pitching to play in that tiny ballpark, man. Balls just fly out of there. If you're an ace, you don't want to sign in that park, man. Your ERA is going to go from 2.5 to 4 because you're giving up 10, 15 more home runs a year. Balls just fly out of that stadium.
Yeah.
But they do have pieces. They have some good young talent. So I don't think they're too far away from competing for that division. I don't think they're close to competing for a World Series yet, but I think they're pretty close to competing for that division.
If you ever want to watch something exciting, you ought to watch my dad watching a Cincinnati Reds baseball game.
Good stuff, huh?
Oh my God. He had to change TV providers, so he's on his third round, I think, this year, because Dish Network got into a contract disagreement with Fox Sports, so he couldn't watch his Reds games anymore. Then he had to go to the internet TV, and that was just completely the worst thing that he had ever had happen to him. Trying to figure out the new remote and how to work a smart TV.
Dude, how funny is that with parents? How it's like
Telling you.
If you throw a remote in front of them, it's like game over. They're like, "What do I do here? I gotta put what button? I don't know how to push that button. What?" I'm like, "Just do this." Hit this. Which one's the play button? I'm like, it's got the little sideways triangle on it. It's the same on every remote ever. Like, just hit that one. They're just totally
Well, our
confused.
Wi-Fi out here sucks.
Okay.
So he was getting pauses during the game, and he would have to go back and hit live again, and he hated that. Absolutely hated it. And finally, Dish Network made an agreement with Fox Sports, so he called Dish Network, and they had to come back out and reinstall the Dish system into his house again. It's funny.
Dude, that is hilarious. It sucks that last year being Marty Brennaman's last year, that's going to be a change. Because I'm sure, if your dad's such a huge fan, you probably grew up listening to Marty Brennaman as well. I grew up listening to Marty with Dad being a huge fan, and he's one of those last remaining voices that will never be again. Vin Scully left, and now, with Marty, it's like, daggone, dude, you miss those days. A lot of my childhood, Marty's in my ear. Even though I wasn't a Reds fan, Marty's still in my ear, just playing outside and having Dad listen to the radio and Marty and Joe on there, dude, and that definitely takes you back. I hate to see him hang it up.
Hey, our Canner's Cave, Goodyear party softball games.
Man, yeah, dude, those
that
days
right there was as good as it got.
Those days, honestly, until you brought that up, I didn't forget about those, but I forgot about you guys being there. Like it was it was so long ago. I'm like, that's right, yeah. Whenever I finally got to start playing, got older, got in high school, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get out there and play. And then they stopped having them. Like, what that going? I remember going out there. One of the biggest things I remember was they had the sawdust, and they had like coins, like nickels or all these different things in the sawdust, and you had to.
Yep.
One of the games you tried to find it. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Tried to find all the chains in there. That was fun, man. I always looked forward to going out to those.
Oh, I did too. That was a great time whenever they had those.
Had the water balloon toss, and guess how many jawbreakers are in the jar or whatever. Man, or how many marbles were in the jar. It's like, dude, I still.
Yeah, and I had already spent several years of my life out there at Canner's Cave, going to camp every single year, because I did that until I was too old to be able to go anymore. And they actually wanted me to join up out there and be a staff member, but none of that was going to work out for me because I wasn't in college or anything, and that wasn't a good enough job at the time.
Sure.
But I have a lot of really good memories from all of that. Those Goodyear parties was where it was at.
No doubt, man. I don't think I've been out there for probably the last time that they had one, probably 25 years, something like that.
Yep. It's been several years since I've been out that way too.
I need to take
it's a little bit.
I know, right? And I'm never back that way. When I am, it's like go to work, go home, go to work, go home. I don't get out much, but I need to maybe take a visit there. I have so many things I want to do now when I do get home. Definitely come, go see Bird play. I talked to him about that. Go see you play at some point, and maybe again, I'm gonna kick around that idea and maybe try to talk to a few people and see if we can set something up where we get some local people together and just put a little music thing together. I will definitely, you'll be the first person I get in touch with if that's
I'm
something.
always game for that.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, Charlie, dude, I appreciate you doing this, dude. Thanks for coming on. I'm glad we could set it up, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. And tell the family, hey. Anything else you got?
I'll tell you what, man. I've really looked forward to this all day, being able to come home and do this. And I've got a chance to listen to a couple of them that you've done, and you're really, really doing something awesome. So be proud of it, because they're very, very enjoyable to listen to. You keep the conversation going the entire time with all the right questions, and you're really doing a good thing. And I appreciate you having me be a part of it. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And that's what the fun thing is about it. Get on with people that I haven't really talked to in a while, or I've never talked to, and just kind of shoot the breeze, man. I was able to my next show. I think this show will be out. It might be 5 or 6 weeks before I put this one out, because I have one more in between that I actually recorded last week. I haven't announced it yet, but I'll announce it to you because once this comes out, it will have already aired. But I got to talk for about an hour and a half with Coach Larry Blackstone, and
Really?
I did, yeah. And I've never had a conversation more than 5 words with Coach, right? So
Yeah.
when I started this podcast and I got through the first few people, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a coach on. I'd like to have Hendershot on at some point because he was a big part of my life. Obviously, my dad's the best coach I've ever had, but Pat is right there. He really, I was around him for 5-6 years and then helped coach a little bit and things like that. So I want to have Pat on at some point. But Blackstone was always intriguing to me because, again, I didn't know much about him. I found out that he put a book out, and so I went to Amazon. Him and his brother wrote a book, the Blackstone Brothers. So I bought it, had it shipped over here, read it in 2 or 3 days, and it was really informative, really good. So I reached out to him on Facebook and just sent him a picture of me holding the book on the beach. I said, hey, man, got your new book. I do this little interview type thing on a podcast. Of course, I don't think he knew what a podcast was necessarily, but he's all he sent me was, give me a call sometime, and he gave me his phone number. I was like, okay. So here I am. I'm like, even doing this with you, I'm always nervous before I do these because it's like, man, how's it going to flow? Or is things going to come out right? Am I going to say things right? Is it going to sound stupid? So with Coach Blackstone, again, at least I knew you. We had a childhood together and things like that. With Coach, it was just this intimidating figure that I remember from high school who always tried to get me to play football. And I never played, and I was like, man, this guy's not even going to remember me. But one day I'm actually pulled off the side of the road. I'm at the beach. I'm like, okay, I'm in the car. I'm going to give him a call. So I give him a call, and I was like, I didn't know what to say. So for the first 5 seconds, I didn't even say anything. And I'm like trying in my head to come up with words. And finally I was like, Coach Blackstone, it's Brent Ewing. We talked on the phone. And the first words to me from him were, good. I was like, all right, pleasure to talk to you. And he's like, hey, man, he's like, now he starts into the questions right away. Now, what's this thing you're wanting me to do? And we talked for about 12 or 15 minutes, and it went really well. He's like, set it up, text me. I'd love to do it. So I sent him a text about a week and a half ago or so. Hey, let's do it this date. He's like, perfect. I called him and we talked, man, and it couldn't have been better. He's such a good dude. One of the funny things he told me, he said, I remember you. I don't know why. You never did nothing for me, but I remember you. I was like, dude, he had me cracking up. He just made me feel like this is a guy I've known forever. You know what I mean? I thought it went that well. So I have his podcast ready to edit right now, and I'm gonna put it out next, and then yours will probably be right after that. But yeah, it was fun to do that. I want to try to get more people like that, more people from around. For right now, keep it around the Wellston area. I mean, it's cool. People back there get to listen to stories and learn things about. Well, I go out and see Charlie play, but I don't know this about him. Or I go out and see Bird play, but I didn't know this about him. So it's kind of cool to get your stories out there, too, and get them to – not that a lot of people listen to this, but there's some people who listen, so it's kind of cool, and they get to learn things about you, Well,
yeah. Hopefully you lost your nerves after talking to me for just a few minutes.
Oh, for sure. It's just it's always the same, though. It's just like taking a test in school, or it's just like having to stand up and speak, or walk into a patient's room for the first time. It's like, I don't know this person. How's this going to go? And then as soon as you go in, you just get into it, and it flows pretty smoothly. So yeah.
You never know, because, people change so much over the years. If you go as many years as it's been since me and you have seen each other, people can dramatically change over time.
Oh, for sure. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw you. We've talked here and there on Facebook, but it's had to be a decade or so, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, easy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts. It won't be that long again, man. I promise you that. Like I said, I'll come support you. I'll come support Bird. I'll even try to see Bart. Maybe one of these days I can reach out to him and get him on the show and learn a little bit about him. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't think I've ever met the guy or ever had any interaction with him, but definitely like to learn about him, because everything I hear, he's kind of the man around that area as far as music goes. You and Bart are the first two names that I always hear.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope it's all good.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Charlie, like I said, we'll kind of wrap this up, man, and tell your dad, hey, tell Big Keith that we say hello as well.
I got you.
Good deal, buddy.
I'll tell everybody, man. I really appreciate getting to talk with you.
All right, buddy. I will text you as soon as this show's getting ready to come out, and I'll let you know, okay?
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, Charlie. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right. We'll see you.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, there you go, everybody. That's my episode with Charlie Manring. What a blast. I had such a fun time recording that episode. A great time talking to Charlie and reminiscing a little bit from our school days, but just hearing what he's up to now. And just to hear him sing a little bit. If you haven't, get on Facebook, get on YouTube, Charlie Manring, check it out. The dude's got some pipes on him. Get out there and support him. If you're in the Wellston-Jackson area, if you see Charlie playing anywhere, around town, get out there and check him out. Because like Bird said, support all the local musicians. So yeah, guys, again, thanks for listening. You guys, this is super fun for me. I really enjoy it. And the next episode of the Hey Buddy podcast will feature a first. I get my first female guest on the show. It's not that I didn't want to have female guests on the show, but this is still fresh. This is still new to me. Kind of learning the ropes, you kind of get into your comfort zone. You talk to your buddies about sports and music and things like that. But I heard from another friend of mine that I went to school with who said, hey, I'm enjoying the show, but when are you going to have some females on there? And again, it wasn't me not wanting to have them on there. It's just waiting until it felt right, waiting until I felt a little more comfortable with the topics and reaching out, being over here. The time difference is a thing. Just being able to set stuff up with people and being able to sit down for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and do an interview. It's not easy. So I'll reveal who the next guest is going to be. Again, super sweet girl. It's a girl I went to school with, a girl I graduated with. She has a really touching story. There's some sad parts and there's some really inspirational parts in it. I think you guys will really dig it. But until that episode drops, I thank you guys for listening to this one. And, catch us back here for the 11th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast.